Plants. We have plants all around us. Some are tasty, some are nasty. But there is one plant in particular that is out for human blood.
One day, Bobby was relaxing outdoors when suddenly...
Hey mate, buddy, hey, who are you? Name's Heracleum Mantegatianum, but friends just call me Giant Hogweed.
Well, damn nice to meet you, Mr. Giant Hogweed.
Oh, thank you. I hope we can become good friends, yeah.
And this was the moment where Bobby's life took a turn.
Just who was that mysterious plant, and why is Bobby now in big trouble? To figure that out, we need to go all the way back to the 19th century to the Caucasus Mountains, where the plant, known colloquially nowadays as giant hogweed, was just peacefully growing away from human eyes for the most part. Sometimes some people would pass by and admire its giant stem and big, luscious white flowers, but nothing really happened to it, until some visitors in particular took notice of it. Normally, such passers-by wouldn't really do anything other than admire the plant and then be on their way to do their business, but these particular travelers happened to be British. And, Brits being Brits, they could not resist the centuries-old tradition of just grabbing some shiny stuff from foreign lands and bringing it back to their homeland. Thus, the giant hogweed became a frequent occurrence in English gardens, from which it has spread eventually throughout the rest of Western Europe and to the United States as well. Afterwards, about half a century later, in the post-war Soviet Union, Soviet planners were looking for a plant that could provide enough biomass to feed large hordes of cattle that Soviet Union was raising at the time. And what do you know? It turned out that in Soviet-controlled Georgia, they had just the thing, those giant hogweed plants with lots of tasty biomass. Or, well, so they assumed. The cattle didn't quite share their opinion on the tastiness of that biomass because they pretty much refused to eat it in any form. And even when they somehow managed to make the cattle eat the plant, the milk it has produced was, let's say, of subpar quality. This all led to the Soviet agricultural industry eventually abandoning the plant altogether. Now, okay, the plant wasn't particularly useful, but it could still be used for decorative purposes, so what's so bad about it? So, the problem was that this plant doesn't really like staying in one place. It likes traveling more than your average Instagram model. And, on top of that, it doesn't really have any natural enemies outside of its native region. So, with the pretty much uncontested growth, this plant, each one of them, can produce somewhere between 20 and 100,000 seeds. And, as if the sheer numbers were not enough, the seeds are also incredibly good at surviving for long periods of time. In fact, some of those seeds have been known to survive for up to 15 years before finally growing into proper plants. Imagine you're trying to clear out a patch of land of these things. You just plow everything, you get rid of all the plants, all the roots, everything, and 15 years later they still pop up. And you know, quickly spreading, growing for 15 years is already pretty impressive. But it doesn't stop there. Giant hogweed is also suspected to show this particular behavior called... what was it called again?
Allelopathy.
Yes, that. This behavior allows it to release chemicals into surrounding soil to prevent other plants from growing. So not only does it grow extremely quickly, have large leaves, depriving other plants of sunlight, it also chemically poisons them. But that in itself isn't really a killer plant material yet. But there's more.
Why is there a burning sensation in my hand? Because I just gave you severe burns.
Well, the thing is, this plant is actually very dangerous for humans. You see, the sap of this plant actually contains chemicals that dramatically increase photosensitivity of human skin. And increased photosensitivity in turn means getting severe burns even in just normal sunlight. Let's say, for example, I were to take my shirt off. It's a nice sunny day, sun is up there, not really obstructed by clouds much. I would start getting a proper good bubbly crust on my skin, meaning a second-degree burn, in about, I would say, 4 to 6 hours. With the sap, however, I might start getting burns in as little as 15 minutes, and they could go up to third-degree burns, meaning deep tissue damage. And as we know, the burns alone are bad enough to kill a person sometimes. So, by now it's starting to slowly sound like a proper killer plant, right? But we're just starting. As if the burns themselves were not bad enough, they also leave scars that can last for years. Okay, but let's say you got the sap on your skin, but you just quickly run away, wash it off, you're good to go, right? Nah, not even close. Actually, the moment you get the sap on your skin, you already get that photosensitivity effect. And at that point, you probably still have to cover your skin for several years because the effect can actually persist that long. Oh, and the sap itself is also toxic. It doesn't even need light to hurt your skin. And even disposing of the plant can be difficult because let's say you try to chop them up and burn them, the fumes containing the sap are also poisonous. They can damage your lungs, they can damage your eyes. The eyes are especially vulnerable. If you get some fumes or, God forbid, you get actual sap into your eyes, well, let's just hope you can find some sunglasses real fast or enjoy the feeling of your retinas pretty much evaporating in sunlight.
Why does it feel like I can't see? Because you can't.
Okay, so that sounds pretty bad already, but there is one last cherry on top. As it turns out, the sap is not just toxic, increases your photosensitivity, suffocates you, blinds you, it's also mutagenic, meaning that, yes, this plant can possibly give you skin cancer. I swear, this bastard just doesn't leave anything to chance. If it doesn't manage to kill you quickly, it just plays the long game.
Why are you doing all this? Oh, because fuck you, that's why.